When this new year began, I resolved to focus more on my health. I'm 66 years old, overweight, and not as physically active as I need to be. I also had a friend pass away unexpectedly recently, which was a big wake-up call for me. So in January, I made an appointment with my doctor. And after sharing some of my concerns, she recommended a cardiologist who put me through a series of tests. 2 weeks ago, I saw her to review my results. Now, I had prepared myself for bad news. I even said to her, "Give it to me straight, Doc. How's my heart?" She said, "Your heart is fine. However, you're 66, overweight, not as physically active as you need to be." Where had I heard that before? Well, here was her prescription to get healthy. She said, "Focus on your diet, exercise regularly, and come and see me next year." I'm glad I did all this, even though it wasn't without some worry and anxiety. Have you ever had a wake-up call in your life? A moment that caused you to reevaluate your priorities, maybe with your health, your family, or your work? Maybe you're living through one of these moments right now. And when that wake-up call comes, you have a choice to make. You can ignore it, sometimes at your own peril, or you can put in the hard work to change. Change your behavior, your outlook, or your priorities in life. In the gospel today, Jesus gave his disciples a wake-up call. He challenged them and us to avoid the unhealthy spiritual practices which prevent them from following him and building his kingdom. Let's take a look at his diagnosis and prescription. So we just concluded our winter message series titled Practicing the Way. For 5 weeks we focused on discipleship. And we heard that disciples are those who choose to be with Jesus, become like him, and then do as he did. We also said that Jesus spent 3 years training his students, teaching them, forming them. Today we heard him say this, "When I've fully trained you, you will be like me." His lessons to them were a combination of don't do this, instead do this. And we heard a powerful example of that today. Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own? How can you say to your brother, "Brother, let me remove that splinter in your eye," when you do not even notice the wooden beam in your own eye? You hypocrite. Now, this example is so outrageous that it's not hard to laugh about. Picture a huge wooden beam sticking out of your eye, and then a person with a tiny splinter in his or her eye. And you choose to ignore your wooden beam and instead focus on the other person's tiny splinter. It's pretty obvious which one should be your bigger concern. So here's what Jesus says to do. Remove the wooden beam from your eye first, then you will see clearly to remove the splinter in your brother's eye. Jesus' message to his followers couldn't be any clearer. He's saying, stop pointing out the faults in another person. Instead, deal with your own faults. You have to fix your vision problems before you can lead others. What Jesus observed among his disciples remains a huge challenge today. We can all fall into that bad habit of pointing out the faults of others. We do it with our families and friends, co-workers and classmates, neighbors, parishioners, even strangers. Our divisive and toxic culture encourages us to zero in on anyone who is different in any way, anyone who looks or behaves differently. People of other races, religions, politics, and lifestyles. But let's be really clear about what Jesus is not saying. He's not saying that we should turn a blind eye to leaders who abuse their power or oppress others. He's not saying that we should excuse anyone's harmful or hurtful behavior. Jesus himself was very vocal in speaking truth to power. He always stood up for the marginalized people of his day. He spoke out for the voiceless individuals in his world. His parable of the beam and the splinter was a blistering critique on the hypocrisy of the leaders of his day, the scribes and Pharisees. But let's keep in mind that today's parable was aimed at Jesus' followers, his students, to those he was training to one day do as he did. It would be their mission to go and make disciples. They would be calling others to join Christ's kingdom. And when extending the invitation to become followers, Jesus is saying, don't begin by pointing out someone's failures or faults. That's the surest way to get rejected. Because not only is it a losing strategy for making disciples, it also overlooks the fundamental reality that everyone is imperfect. Everyone is a sinner in need of salvation. And the salvation of Jesus is a gift that is freely offered to everyone. Everyone, regardless of a person's past, regardless of status or lifestyle. Salvation is a gift which can only be accepted through humility, openness, and love. When I was a kid, I remembered hearing this advice from my mom. If you don't have anything nice to say about someone, don't say anything at all. Did your mom ever say that to you? I'm guessing a lot of moms taught their children this lesson. And it's a pretty good one to hear and to practice. I think it's a lesson implied in today's gospel and good advice when it comes to discipleship. If this is something that you struggle with, and I think we all do to some extent, how can you overcome it? Well, Jesus gave us the remedy today when he said, notice the wooden beam in your eye first before pointing out someone else's splinter. And like I said, the difference in size between a beam and a splinter is Jesus' way of telling us where our focus needs to be. Take a good look inside yourself. Start there. Focusing on your own faults will keep you humble. It will also help you remain quiet when it comes to others and their splinters. In our last message series, Practicing the Way, we were told that we need to train ourselves to always see people and situations through God's eyes, not ours. Which means that, like God, we give others the benefit of the doubt. We try to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. We strive to be compassionate, understanding, and forgiving toward others. In 3 days, we will begin the season of Lent. 40 days to help us get in shape spiritually so that we can truly celebrate at Easter. To help you get ready, think of today's gospel like my doctor's visit. See it as a checkup to find out how you're doing when it comes to your faith so that you can figure out what changes you need to make. So today, ask yourself this question. What is the beam in my eye? What is the beam in my eye? Do you constantly point out others' faults while ignoring your own? Are you quick to judge others? Have you become prideful, arrogant, or unforgiving towards people around you? Do you reject people whose actions you disagree with, whose behavior, lifestyle, or politics is different from yours? Is there a negative attitude that has taken up room in your heart? A bad habit you need to break? What in your life needs to change so that you can get spiritually healthy? And if you aren't sure of your answer to this question, you can be really brave and ask someone whose opinion you value. Give them permission to identify your beam. I'm sure they'll be happy to tell you. Begin to think about this now so that you can start Lent open to the church's call of conversion. Next weekend, we will begin our Lenten message series titled, Let Go and Let God. Each week, we will focus on one thing we need to let go of so that God can fill us with his love. Our message team has been hard at work on this series for several months, and it's shaping up to be another amazing series. So plan to join us each week and consider inviting someone to join you for Mass. And remember, if you miss any week, you can find all our messages on our website. And one final plug for our Lenten small groups, which are now forming. Groups will meet for 5 weeks, and discussions will focus on our Lenten series. You can sign up or get more information today after Mass in the entranceway or on our website. So please consider joining a small group this Lent. Remove the wooden beam in your eye first. May Jesus' command in today's gospel challenge us to get our spiritual health in order, that we may grow as disciples who help to build his kingdom. Amen.